All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited about our call today. One of the big reasons I'm excited about it is that we haven't done the agent spotlight in forever and a day. We did this for nearly 8 months, and then when the commission lawsuits kind of came into place, we said, okay, we need to really focus on that. So we started doing a lot of that for about 3 months, and so we're going to start that back up. And so what the agent spotlight usually is we'll bring in an agent or an industry specific person, whether it's someone that's a vendor of ours or someone maybe that's in that works on a national scene that we can interview. We've had David Knox in here, we've had John Story, we've had a lot of people on these calls. I'm excited about today for a couple of reasons. Number one is we have Mrs. Isabel Otten, who we've actually had here on before, but that was that was a dual show, right? Yeah, and that was a little insane, yeah, because we had all the dogs. So if you haven't watched that episode, I think you could go down in Facebook and we've got it recorded. It's a little insanity because what we did is we cleared the room out with all the furniture, and we had dogs. We tried to talk about real estate and dogs, and I think it came more a conversation about dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we had all our dogs.
So anyway, we've got Miss Isabel back here alone in the spotlight. I want to focus a lot on some of her real estate for sure, but I also want to focus certainly on, for those that don't know, she is running for city council. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
yeah.
what
for District 2?
District 2.
Yes.
And District 2 is where?
So this District 2 is going to be a little bit of northeast, which is Condo Pass, up to Alabama, all the way down central, and then south central, pretty much to the border.
Wow. Okay.
It's a big district.
So it's a big swath.
About 87,000 people.
87,000 people. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to get into that, and I probably am going to ask you that again, but we'll go ahead and get this. Before we get started, is there anyone that wants to share any fire? Is there anything that anyone got any new listings? Anyone maybe get any deals that they've put under contract that they've struggled with, or anything just in general, even in personal life? Any fire to share? Yay, nay, no?
Frank,
Yes, sir.
Edmundo here with Michael. We're listening together.
Good morning, Mundo.
Just letting you guys know, appreciate what you're doing. Michael's here learning a lot from all these Zoom meetings. I encourage everybody to get on here because there's a lot of good information. So thanks for everything that you do.
Thank you, Mundo. I appreciate that. And welcome aboard, Michael. Michael is brand new license. We're excited to have him. I think we had an announcement go out on him yesterday, if I recall, if not yesterday, the day before, but sometime in the last couple of days. And Mundo is Mundo's cousin, so Mundo's going to mentor him. So it's Mundo and Sandra Montoya, for those that are.
And
yes, sir.
Sorry to cut you off. For Isabel, before we get started on the city council stuff, once you start addressing all that, what are you going to do to lower taxes and beat these guys that, like Renard, that are going to try to raise our taxes like the DeMarco regime? There are other ways to get money, revenue for the city, and it's not just property tax. I hope that's part of your plan.
Yeah, definitely. And I will definitely talk a lot about that, because that was really the main reason why I decided to run. It's because of, how high our taxes are. And then I see it on our clients, the buyers can't qualify for what they used to. The sellers are over and done with how high the taxes are. So yes, that's definitely something that I want to talk about.
Great question, Mundo.
Thank you.
So we may have you rephrase that because in case for editing purposes, because I want to make sure we can record this for Isabel if she wants to reuse this. Is obviously in this final stretch she's got between now and Tuesday, and I think early voting ends today. Yeah. What is that? So like 5, whatever time the polls closes is the last day of early voting.
Correct.
So if you haven't voted yet, you don't want to do the crazy voting on Tuesday. There will be some crazy voting on Tuesday, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Then you definitely, I would try to get in their day. It's probably gonna be crazy today a little bit too, just because everybody's saying, "Oh, it's my last
waiting
day."
last minute.
Yeah, exactly. I went at 8 a.m. a couple of days ago and it was perfectly fine. I was the
What location did you go to?
I went to the Bartlett one here,
Okay.
which is right up here on across Mesa, and it was great. So All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Any other fire? Thank you, Mundo, for sharing, and welcome, Michael. Glad you could be here.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Appreciate that.
yeah, no problem. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started then. You ready to do this?
I'm ready.
I know you were like, well, we can take as much time. No, we're gonna take as much time on you. So thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And again, this is not your first rodeo. You've done this before with me. But this is your first time flying solo.
Right.
We don't have Miss Heather here.
Yeah.
And Miss Heather's never had a problem speaking,
I was
does
gonna
she?
say, Heather, when Heather and I are together, she does the majority of the talking and I'm totally okay.
Now the spotlight is
it's
all on
just
you.
me, so
You are
we'll
in the
see.
hot seat.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. First thing first, from El Paso, right?
Yes. From
Okay.
Paso. Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I mean, you've grown up here, lived here pretty much all your life, right?
Mhm.
Didn't leave.
No.
You're not one of the people that left that kind of
And
came back.
Came back. No,
No,
I've stayed,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So born and raised here.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're raising a family here. Tell us a
Yeah.
little about your childhood.
Yeah, so born and raised in El Paso. My parents are from here as well. They lived in Juarez, a little bit of, I think I was like 3 months when we officially came over here. But we grew up actually in Montana Vista, and we had a little single wide trailer, and it was, 5 of us. So we had a very, I guess, not as privileged childhood, but we were so happy. When you're a kid, you don't even realize,
Exactly.
what you have or what you don't have. So that's where we grew up. We grew up in Montana Vista, and then we moved to Horizon. I ended up going to school there in Horizon, and then graduated from Clint. So, spent all my majority of time there. Then when I was about 19, 20, I ended up, getting pregnant, and I have my 2 daughters. So I had my daughters at a very, very young age. And with that, I said, what am I going to do? How am I going to get a job and still take care of my daughters? And real estate was the first thing that I thought about. And I said, I'm going to get my license. And it just turned out to be amazing, more than I expected. I love it. I've been doing it for 15 years. And it really just helped me in all areas in life. I'm able to be a mom. I'm able to start my business. I've just done so much around real estate, and I'm really grateful that I made the decision to get my license. I wish I would have invested in the beginning. So if you're new realtors, I encourage you to invest since day one. But yeah, that's kind of, why I got into real estate, was because of my daughters. Sometime in between there, I ended up going to the academy to become a police officer, and I did that
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. And I did that for about 2 years, 2.5 years. It was so much for me. I feel because of my daughters, I wasn't able to be there so much for them. And, it was a lot going on. But so I went back to real estate and have been doing it since. But moving forward, about 6 years ago, I decided to do flipping. And I got my LLC, and I started buying houses with Heather and, by myself and another business partner. And so that just kind of grew. And it's something also that I love. With that being said, real estate has so much opportunities for us, and so many different areas that you can pick and choose where you want to specialize in. So mine, for me, I think, is the flipping, is the investing, is buying the houses, fixing them up, and selling it. It's awesome. So yeah.
And I want to hit on that a little bit. So, number one, tell me. I lived a very exact opposite life of you, and it is so true. You don't know what don't know when you're a child. So
Right.
I grew up, my father was a hotelier, and we got a very, you could say privileged, or,
Yeah.
but, I mean, my parents still made me do chores, and I had to, get a job when I was in high school and stuff. So, I mean, they made sure that they
Right.
kind of put work ethic into me, but, it took me, I want to say, really to like probably early adult, 10, 11 to 12, to kind of understand, like, wait a minute, like, my life is a little different than
Right.
some of my friends.
Yeah.
And was that same for you, or by that time, did your parents slowly evolve and I mean, go from living the 5 of you in a single wide trailer to, a house and things like that? How did that work for you? Because I think that's an interesting thing for all of us as we work with people in all walks of life, people from where they've come from. And obviously, it's always a much better story when it comes from someone like yourself that said, I came from this and da da da.
Yeah, and I always think, like, it's never ashamed to, show where you came from. I think it's more of something of pride because you literally come from nothing and you're
Yes.
able to grow of that and make yourself something. And I think that's just big. And for me, it's taught me a lot. Not forgetting where I came from because you think about, what you didn't have and what you have now. And so you see what you have now and you're thankful because you remember that that wasn't always the case, and,
Yes.
and I feel for my parents because I know that they did their best to make sure that we had
course.
everything that we had. And I think they did because we didn't feel it, like I'm saying, like we never thought that we didn't have the money. But now looking back, I'm like, man, we were really struggling. We struggled a lot. My parents struggled a lot. So it's definitely a blessing to know that, you were there once and you're here now and that you can teach that to your kids and just to teach that to really to everybody, just to kind of be, what do you call it? Just, let everybody know that you can be in one position and still be something else. You don't have to come from money. You don't have to come. It's just what you make of it, really.
I love that. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I've always believed that a house is a house and the structure and the sticks and everything is the house, but the home is what matters. And whether it's a single wide
Yeah.
or whether it's, a large home that I grew up in or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
it's what really is made of it. So it's interesting.
And that's funny because that's what we do. We deal with families all the time. And so we see, especially with sellers, how much they're attached to their home.
Yes.
Sometimes a little too much where we're like, it's okay, like let's move forward. But we see that every day, the attachment that's there. That's not so much because of the house. It's because of, the family that was there.
So 15 years in the business.
15 years.
And you said it was about 2 years that you served on the police force?
Yeah, I did that for about 2 years. Yes.
Yeah. And
That
was
was
it
around 2014, 2015, 2016 area. Yeah.
and this was something, obviously, as you said, you did for yourself, but also I guess for your kids as well. But tell me this, can you parlay the two between real estate and because I truly believe, and I was telling actually Michael, who Mundo's with right now, in our first interview, that I truly believe people that have lived in some life of service seem to do exceptionally well in this business. Can you find any things that are that are similar in how you served our community as a police officer versus being in real estate, or is that just a crazy question?
No, I think you're right. I think, you in a sense have to be a people person because don't get me wrong, I am an introvert. I love to be at home, but I also like to serve and I also like to help. And I think, when you choose your career, if you are, somebody of service, you do excel in areas like this because you get pride in what you do and you do it out of joy and not so much, as a job. So I think you're right. If you like to serve, then real estate is definitely because a lot of our work is, we consider ourselves counselors, we consider ourselves all this other stuff because we deal with a lot in just a short period of time with the buyers and the sellers. And if we're there and we can relate with the homeowners, it makes it better. It makes the transition a little bit better for them.
And it's interesting because and gosh, I've been doing this twice as long as you have, and you're a veteran in this business of 15 years, and I'm 30 years into it now. So
what is it? What is it? What's past the veteran?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I used to be excited to say I've been in this for 2 decades now. I'm kind of like that's 30 years. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the end of the day, teachers, nurses, police, I think firemen have done very well. We have quite a few firemen that have been in our business for many years, and those that have served in the military. It's an interesting, and I think some aspects of that come to that is the discipline factor, the structure. If these people could go in and build a structure around how their processes, how they do business. So let's talk about your business. Because you're being very humble and you started flipping, but you've flipped a lot of homes.
Yeah.
And you own a pretty impressive, I would say, real estate portfolio.
Yeah, I think it's good, not only to flip, but also to keep a lot of the real estate that we find because if you hold these properties, especially if you have children, if you don't want to go and set up a retirement further or some kind of savings for your child, buy them a house, and when they get to college, sell it and use that for their for their college tuition. So just to me, real estate has so much opportunity. And if we are there every day dealing with houses and we see a good deal and it's offered to us and it's pretty much put in our hands, we should take advantage of that because as realtors, we should all own property. We should all own investment property, land, whatever you guys want to do. But it is very important for us to do it because it's just such a good, safe investment when it comes to real estate. I mean, there's other types of investments, but when it comes to real estate, it's really one of the safest investments you can do.
For sure.
Mhm.
So you get your real estate license 15 years ago. Did you own a home at that point when you got your real estate license?
Let's see. I bought my first house. Actually, I bought my house. Yeah, I bought my first house in 2009, and then later on that year is when I got my real estate license. So it was Marisela Harper was actually my realtor. And when I saw her doing it, I was like, I think I can do this.
Right.
So yeah, she was my first realtor that I used when I sold my house.
I've recruited hundreds, if not thousands of people over the years in different organizations. And it always so much comes down to nearly two things. There are other reasons, of course, but either someone had just a terrible bad experience buying a home with a realtor and they were like, it's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
Or, they met someone, they built that relationship with them, which I'm assuming is probably because my son's obviously very engaging and nice. And they were like, oh my gosh, well, she's, I like her. I could do this or something to that point. So I love that you have the latter versus the first one, because we do hear that story a lot.
Yeah.
Tell me this. So you get into real estate and you're at that, I'm not trying to figure out how old you are, but how old are you when you get your real estate license?
I was 23.
Okay.
So I was young.
So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
I have a 23-year-old son.
Okay.
And he's not one of these kids like someone, but there are a lot of 23-year-olds. He has a lot of friends, I'll just say. Well, if it's to preface this way, because not all 23-year-olds are like this at all. In fact, we have some 19 and 20-year-olds that are killing it in real estate right now. So, but there are a lot of 23-year-olds that are still living at home, smoking pot every day, trying to either finish college or maybe not going to college or trying to work in, So here you are, 23 years old. I would assume that your sphere of influence in your world, there are not many qualified buyers or sellers.
Yeah, I think at that age, I already had a daughter, and I think for me, I didn't have that young teenage experience. It was more of like, you're an adult now, you're responsible, you need to do something with your life and take care of your children. So for me, it was more of, I don't have time to be, out and partying and stuff. I have to now grow up and be a mom and provide for her. So it was something that I needed to do. And I'm glad that I went with real estate because, like I said, it's just opened up so many doors for me that I would have never even thought would have been possible 15 years ago with, a small child. So it is very interesting. Like, you're right. I see my daughter, she's 20. I'm like, how in the world was I pregnant or had a baby at that age? And she's, in her own little world in college, enjoying life. I'm like, it's just crazy to think that I had to grow up so quickly.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So you get in the business, and I would assume, and I forgot that aspect. When you do have a child, it automatically puts you into other, just areas where you're going to meet other people that are more established, that have families or have children or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get your real estate license, and are you working another job? Are you part-time or what are you doing?
No, I was doing real estate, full time so that I can also provide, be there for my kids and whatnot. So that's what I was doing the entire time.
How did that happen? Because that's hard for a lot of people. Like, I mean, there's usually just money going out for real estate where you
it wasn't. And that's what I tell my daughters, because now they'll be, I want to get my license. I said, just know that I was not always like this. I did struggle in the beginning, and, first time realtors, the first 2 years, it is tough. And there is times where you don't have any closings that month, and just learning, how to save your money so that it lasts when I started, houses were on the market, and that's kind of what they are now, for 3 months. And then you have to wait an additional, 4 months. So even if you got a listing, you weren't going to get paid for another 4 or 5 months.
Sure.
So it was a lot of learning how to, manage my money. And I was not always doing great. So it was me trying to stay with it and making sure that I keep my license and not let it go, because it was really hard in the beginning. And now I think, fast forward so many years, it's a lot easier for me now, but it comes from
Hmm.
just being in the business for so long.
So fascinating. So you get in, mostly, I assume you're gonna sell anything you can, so,
Right.
but you're doing mostly residential, I would assume,
Right.
as out of the get-go, as most agents.
Yeah.
What attracted you to your first investment property? You said it was about 5, 6 years ago you started doing that?
Yeah, I had a friend and, she messaged me and she said, we just got a divorce. I don't know what to do. I don't want this house. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want anything. And so I was talking to my husband and I said, maybe we should just buy it. He goes, okay, let's do it. And I didn't even have my LLC then, nothing. It was my first one. And it was I bought it directly from her through a hard money lender. And after that, it was very small project. If I would have redo it now, that house, I would have done so much to it, but I did, the minimal, the
Mhm.
paint, the countertops, the whatnot, the carpet. I did a very minimal flip and I just fell in love with the process just because you have a lot of control through the whole thing. You're designing the home, it's your house, you get to sell it. So it's been great. It's been once I got a taste of it, I don't think I'll ever go back. And I think everybody should do it. It is kind of scary. You think, how am I going to make the mortgage payment or what happens if I don't sell it? But it's not as scary as it seems. I mean, I think at the end of the day, worst case scenario, sell the property, you don't make any money, you're good. But I think a lot of people need to just take that leap and just start investing because it is
Sure.
a good thing.
So one led into another, I assume,
One
and
led
so
into
on.
another, and then I met with Heather because we've been friends for a long time, and we ended up reconnecting, and she had some properties, and it was actually a really really big rehab that I wanted to do, and I didn't want to do by myself, and so I did it with Heather, and after that, we kind of worked really well together, and we ended up doing that after, and now we kind of buy our own. If we have one together, we'll buy it together, but for the most part, we kind of just buy our own properties now. But she was a great also mentor because she knows a lot too, and so when I
Interior designer background, I believe.
right, yeah, so I had, and she knew a lot of um the little like not the contractors, but the areas of town that we can get better deals and whatnot. So she helped me a lot with that. And that big project, I mean, it was a whole gut job. We spent 100,000 on the rehab.
Oh my goodness.
And that's something that I wanted to do by myself. And Heather was like, I'll do it with you. And so we did it. And yeah, it just went really good for us.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
So from that point, you started buying, but what, we've had this conversation before, so I'm asking you again, but I'm assuming
Yeah.
people would want to know this. I find it fascinating. Through this process, you would find properties, and at some point, you would either A, decide to flip them, or B, decide to hold them. What, how did that go? I've talked to Victoria Spars about this, is the same. Her answer was kind of like, a lot of times I'm going in with always the idea that I'm going to just buy it, fix it and flip it, or even just put, as she said, lipstick on a pig and kind of,
Yeah.
clean it up and sell it. But, where would you find a property and be like, no, I'm going to hold this? So, was there anything you can see? Is there characteristics of a property that
I think
stand
it's
out?
just more of when you purchase the property, if it's such a good deal that you get it, at a really good price that you can rent it out. And still, I mean, most of the investors still have hard money loans out. So if you can still cover your holding costs and still profit a little bit more, then that's when it would make sense just to go ahead and keep it. There's other ones where, the interest rates are just too crazy, the holding costs are too much. And then you don't want to hold that for a long time. But there's some that they're just sweet deals that that they're going to make a good rental. And it's usually the smaller ones, the 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, whatnot, that I keep just because I know that I can always rent that out. There for a while, our rents were really high. Now they're kind of decreasing, but you want to make sure that you can always, that it's always going to be a rental.
Gotcha.
Because if you go to like the bigger ones, those are a little bit harder to keep and hold.
So currently, right now, what does your portfolio look like? Do you mind sharing?
So I have land. I have a lot of land. I have about 10 acres in different areas of town of land. I like to buy land because it's pretty much minimal to nothing on the taxes, and that's kind of like a buy and hold. And that for me is, I know that land's not going to be for me; it's going to be for my kids and whatnot. And then I do have for rentals, and then of course I have my own property. But I just think, you know, I've been blessed to have them all rented. They're in good size. I have two in the lower valley and the east side, and they're just good sides of town. I think they've always been able to get rent. I have good renters too, so thank goodness for that, because there has been times where you see what they do with the property, but you have to have that mentality that you're going to change the carpets, you're going to paint it. You know, that's just something that you're going to have to do, and you can't really have that emotional attachment to the houses, because when the damage is there, it will be there. Then you know you can't let it get to you.
Tell me, let's talk about land, because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions. I see Alberto on here. I see Adriana Nevarez on here. Both of them sell a good amount of land. So they deal with a lot of investors that will buy and hold land. Tell us about land. Tell us what the attraction is in land use. I think I have a lot of people that come in here and ask me, and of course my answer is usually the similar as that. Is there any other benefits of the land other than, you know, you don't expect it to go down in value?
Right. I mean, it's really just kind of a safe investment, and you have to have that mindset that you're not going to make money out of it unless you're buying. You know, I do have some land on Mount Wood that I'm kind of excited for. You know, I'm just trying to see who's going to come knocking on my door and asking for that piece of land. But you do have to know that you're probably not going to make a big amount of money quick. You know, it's kind of one of those things where you buy and you're going to hold it for a long time, possibly your children and whatnot. I was listening to, when I first started, River Oaks, Ruben, I think is his name. Sorry. Yeah, he was the River Oaks owner for a long time.
Okay.
He said, go to the furthest part of town, buy land,
Yes.
and then, you know, and just wait.
Wait for the sprawl.
And that's what he did. You know, he was buying land, what now is Joe Battle, for pennies. And now here he is, you know, owning the majority of El Paso. So I think, to me, it's just kind of have that mindset, is just buy land where you know and that there's going to be future development, and don't get frustrated. Let it sit there, forget about it, and know that, you know, you can give it to your children, you can give it to your grandchildren, whatever, your sisters, brothers, whatever, or maybe even you in the future. But to me, I think it's a good, safe investment to buy land, because there can be a lot of money in the future with that.
Yeah, I think, you know, and I mean, and there are a few people that have hit a lot of with buying land that,
Yeah.
you know, for whatever the reason, a big company's come in or whatever, or they've built something. I know a lot of people out in Vegas that hit the lotto that own land for pennies on the dollar, and all of a sudden it, you know, they literally, you know, they kind of gambled, held it, and went big time.
Yeah. Nice.
So you got a nice portfolio. What is, you know, in regards to flipping, are there certain markets, like, is this a better market to be buying homes right now where the market has softened a little bit, or is it still prices? I mean, how many flips are you currently doing any flips right now?
Right now I have one. I'm doing one right now. I'm having a house on Tierra Rica on the east side. I think we just, as realtors, we have to go with the market always. You know, we can't stay still and be comfortable. We have to go with the market. The market changes all the time, so we have to be flexible and be able to change with the market, so that we don't struggle, or we don't freak out, or we don't, like, you know, it's okay. People are still buying. Just be more conservative when you do purchase with rehabs, because, you know, 2 years ago we were buying, sometimes we wouldn't even fix them, we would just sell them back off because the market was so hot. Now when I buy, it's a little bit more conservative. I know I'm going to hold this a little bit longer, so I can't pay too much upfront for the house. So it's really just, and I'm not going to do 2 or 3 at the time either, you know, because I know that it can be, if they sit on the market for a long time, then that's going to hurt me. So it's really just going with the market, I would say, and just be conservative and always mindful of what's happening with the market.
And I think, you know, the big piece of your business is the relationships that you have with vendors, contractors, knowing how to get around things, knowing how to buy things at wholesale prices and things. And I think that's the magic that you have doing this for so many years versus, say, you know, someone that wants to go in and flip a home and they're just going to go to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy other stuff. Not that you don't go to Home Depot or Lowe's, I know you do.
I do.
But, you know, but
Yeah.
there are some things you're going to be like, I would never buy that at Home Depot because I can get it cheaper here from this guy or this supplier.
The contractors, I think it's what I struggled with the most. I think a contractor will either make or break your deal here in El Paso. I don't know how it is other areas, but, you know, we know contractors here are not the best. So for me, it was a learning experience when it came to contractors. That's where I struggled. You know, I had contractors. I always tell my husband, I'm like, the police department is gonna just stop me because I was always making reports because we would either have them steal the material, they wouldn't pay their workers, they would stop showing up, or, you know, or something would go wrong. And that was the struggle for me. And I'm sure it is for a lot of people. And you have to find a good contractor, somebody that's reliable, somebody that you don't have to babysit all the time, because that's what we were doing. We were babysitting and then we were getting screwed. And so contractors is just something big. If you have a really good team of contractors, then it just makes that a lot easier. Mhm.
So I want to switch gears here a second, but I first want to just kind of go back to 15 years. That means you got in this business around the worst time you could ever get into real estate, 2008, 2009.
Yeah, I was coming back from that.
Yeah, and even though El Paso was not nearly as affected as like where I lived in Florida and some other places, or Vegas or Phoenix, it still was, all you had to do was turn on the news to realize, you know, how bad things were. Did people think you were nuts?
Yeah, and I think they did, because they're like, there's nothing in real estate. But to me, I'm grateful for joining that time, because it taught me a lot. You know, now when new realtors, they freak out that the house isn't sold in 2 hours. You know, I'm like, wait, when I started, it took, again, 3-4 months to even get that house sold for any showings and whatnot.
For sure.
So it to me, it taught me a lot when it came to the market changing and not freaking out. You know, it had to be a lot more patient. I had to manage my money better. And now that the interest rates were higher then too. And so when I saw the trend with the real estate being really great, you know, I thought it was awesome. But now that it is where it is, to me, it's not anything big, because that's how it was when I started. And that's how it was for a lot of people. So I'm very grateful to have started then, because I think if I would have started in 2020, you know, 2019 or whatnot, I probably would have just left afterwards if I thought it was going to be
For
this
sure.
easy.
In fact, I was talking to this young man that's actually on this call earlier this week, and I told him, I said, you know, it's actually a blessing that he's just gotten his license now, after all the NAR lawsuit stuff that's happened here and stuff. Like, he's going to learn how to do real estate the way we do it now. And, you know, versus all these different pivots and changes that you've had to go through over your last decade and a half. All right, so let's shift gears. Well, thank you for sharing all this. I find it fascinating. You know, you and Heather both have done a lot of business. I know it's kind of levers up and down. Sometimes you have more projects, you have less projects, and I think it's interesting. I think that the thing that fascinates me the most is that you know, even when, and as Heather has told us, and you guys did a sit down for us about a year ago at our summit, and you know, there are some deals sometimes that you guys really didn't make any money on, but the reality was it didn't deter you from going and doing your next deal. I think that's great.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about city council.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask this question again. Do people think you're nuts for running? Do you think you're nuts for running?
I think if I would have known what I know now, yeah, but it's a lot. I have a lot of support from my family, and I think that's very important. Before I decided to run, I went and I talked to people that have been in office, you know, before me, and they told me, this is the hardest thing that I've ever done. And some of them are in real estate, and this is the hardest thing. And I didn't believe them. I said, it can't be that hard. You know, it can't be that hard to run.
Yes.
And they warned me, and it is so hard. But I am, again, grateful to be where I am. So, you know, fast forward a few months ago, I said, I'm going to run for city council. Prior to this, I was in the Historic Landmark Commission, the board with the city as a commissioner. And I fell in love with the process of being able to, the reason I went on there is because I live on a historic district. So when I had to go for those changes, it was very frustrating for me, where they weren't allowing me to do something that was good for my property. So I said, you know, I'm going to join the board. And I joined the board for that reason, because I know that there's people that are trying to do good for their properties, and we were kind of just blocking them. So I made sure when I was there that we gave that opportunity to the homeowners to be able to restore their properties and just do it in the right way. Obviously, you know, not something crazy, but it was just more of a flexibility that I think we can offer the homeowners when they came to historic. So with that being said, I was, kind of thinking, what am I going to do? I have my business, I have my license. Is there anything else I'm going to do? And this just kind of fell on me. I had another realtor, Isabel Otten. I don't know if she's on the governmental boards, and she said, "Hey, I think it's time. I think you've expressed it enough. I think it's time for you to run. We should do it." I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." I put my name in the hat, and it was just a roller coaster from there. It's been crazy. It's been so hard, but it's been good. Yeah.
Well, we're
So,
proud of you, no matter what the results are.
thank you.
So I know Mundo had a question about taxes, but I'm going to follow up. So, his question more or less, and if he needs to jump in and clarify, was kind of like, what are you going to do about it? And it is a problem. I think, and I'm an outsider, right? I've only lived here for a little over 2 years now. Property taxes are insane.
No.
And I come from I live in Orlando, we have high property taxes too, but nothing like here. We have people that are leaving. They're doing the math saying, well, it's still cheaper for me to live in New Mexico, even paying income tax, state income tax, than it is to live in El Paso.
And we're so close to it too. So
And that's it. And so, the streets are a mess. There's obviously a good old boys kind of something going on. You got national builders that won't even step foot into to El Paso. What's going on here? What are you going to do about it? Hopefully you got some solutions or some ideas at least.
Yeah, I think with me going in, I'm going in as thinking how I'm going to rehab a property, and that's, start with the foundation. And I think our city has never really started with the foundation. I think we need to focus on our streets. Everywhere we go, our streets are in terrible shape. And, in my district in Central, they're probably the worst. And for a long time,
By the way, not to interrupt you, I just spent $2,200 on rear suspension, so you were correct.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and they were pretty much like,
and it does that to our vehicles, and that in the hands, it affects our quality of life because we're more stressed and whatnot. So I think, we need to start with the foundation, and that's our streets. It affects our fire department, our police, they're driving these streets all the time too. So their maintenance is going to go up. So it's a lot of stuff that I think we didn't really focus on, or we haven't focused on, is the foundation, which is the streets. And then of course that comes with public safety, our officers, our first responders, and then taxes. I mean, that's just huge. We listen to city council, we listen to politicians, and they say, well, we haven't raised taxes in 2 years or whatever, but that's not completely true, because whether you held a line there, our valuations are still went up on our homes, and so therefore our taxes went up. And that's what we're really hurting. And on top of that, what city council does a lot is they issue, they're called COs, which are certificate of obligations, pretty much just saying we're gonna approve this bond, and not really have the say of the taxpayer. And so we're responsible for these bonds. We have all these bonds, they issued bonds in the past, those ones that do go for the voters. And here we are, fast forward so many years, and we're in severe debt, and now it's on the taxpayer's dime. And so that's another reason why we have so much, our taxes so high, is because we're just issuing, these bonds left and right. And that's something for me that I think we need to stop doing until we take care of the foundation, and then that we're able to bring more revenue so it doesn't affect the homeowner so much.
Is it a fair statement to say that though there's growth in El Paso, the growth is somewhat stagnant year over year because of our property taxes? Is that one of the largest deterrences, or is it the geographical logistics, or do you not know that answer?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think, as a city, there's some stuff, I believe that not every company deserves incentives, but there is some companies that come to El Paso or want to come to El Paso that we can offer them some kind of tax incentive so that they can build here, because in return we have to see, and again, I think as a business owner, that's kind of where you see the additional revenue, because we're going to give them a tax break, but guess what? We're also going to get sales tax on their tenants, on their signage, they're getting employments, employers and opportunities and whatnot. So there's a lot of growth going on there with the minimal incentives that we're offering. It's just to bring them in. And like I said, not everybody deserves an incentive, not every company. There's huge ones that don't need it, but there is some that do need it, and we do want to give them those incentives. And so for me, it's working with commercial development and making sure that they can come in, and they can come in knowing that they can work with city council instead of just us turning away and saying, no, we don't want you. If there's something we can negotiate where we can do it and know that's going to benefit us as the homeowners, taxpayers and whatnot, and it's also going to benefit men, then why would we not do it? Because right now the whole burden is on the taxpayers.
I mean, again, I'm an outsider, and this is just me speaking, and certainly want other people to speak, but I think there's so much more good in El Paso than not. So, I'm pointing out a few things that I've just seen or other people have expressed to me, and as we had conversations. But what I do think is that there's so much opportunity here, and I share my story a lot. When I first came into the city, first time I ever came here in 2018, when I first met Penny and Ted. And I was running a national organization. We were coming in here to acquire a company. I found it and this was someone that was talking about myself, had been on an airplane 48 weeks out of the year for the last decade plus. So I'd been to just about every large major metropolitan city across.
Right.
And in many cases, I was dealing with business owners. So we were having to deal with a lot of different things that would go all the way. There was a lot of brick and mortar we dealt with. There was a lot of things we had to deal all the way down to the city level. What I found fascinating, and now as a business owner of 3 businesses here in El Paso, is that there's so much opportunity here. Yeah. And you have a great foundation of you talk about foundation of people. You have a young population here
that leave, unfortunately, they want to leave
and
because there's no opportunity here for them.
I was talking to these gentlemen that own this company Minsky, and they're trying to get their first seed of financing of they're raising money, and and of course they're getting all these people that raise money that come to them, are very interested. They're like, why are you not in Silicon Valley? Why are you not in Salt Lake? Why are you not in Austin? The areas where a lot of those companies will go, and of course these guys are El Paso strong. They're like, well, we're from here. We love it here. We feel that there's a young population. We feel that we can do that. And I think that's, from there, I look at that and go, how, as a business owner, and if we want to open our business, how do we build off of that? And I think we have all the makings of a population that can explode.
Right. Yeah.
I really believe that.
Yeah, we really do. We really do. And like you said, people that are in El Paso, they love El Paso and they want to see the city grow. And unfortunately, for a lot of years, I feel like we just have blocked, that opportunity for a lot of business owners to come and grow. And, even when it's mom and pop shops, it's a little bit difficult when it comes to permits and whatnot. So it is a lot of things that I think we need to be a little bit just more open-minded when it comes to city council, and just that it's not just one way, because the way it's been now, it's just been affecting taxpayers and we really have nothing to show for it. So there has to be a happy median where we can, bring businesses in, but also, we're making sure we don't put the burden on the taxpayers. So.
Let's go back to property taxes. Is there anything that we can do to because from a real estate perspective, it is the number one thing besides high interest rates that hurt us, and debt to income ratio and things like that as far as people affording houses. Is there anything that can be done in the short term, or is this a long-term problem that is how do you fix that?
I think it is a long-term problem because it comes from the state level, right? Because that's kind of where everything gets set. But us locally, I think working on valuations on the property, make sure that they're accurate. I think CAD is kind of off on their valuations. And I think if we work together with that and, lobbyists from the city and, our real estate and whatnot, but if we're able to just control the valuations and make sure that they're accurate, that's going to help the homeowners, because yes, it's great to have a high property value when you go to sell, but for most of us that are actually living in these homes, we see, and if we've been in the business for long, we know that, man, that house was 100,000, a few years ago, and it hurts us to know that it could have been that, and now here we are, fast forward 4 years because of COVID and whatnot, what it did to our property values. But I think just as realtors and just keeping an eye on CAD and their valuations, I think we need to work closely with CAD to make sure that their valuations are a little bit accurate, because now if you see it, they're not really as accurate as they used to be. They're kind of a little bit higher and whatnot. So they've
been hanging out with Zillow.
Yeah, they've been hanging out with Zillow. And I think with them, they work in arrears, like they keep up the data that came out last year and whatnot. And so it's like they're not really going with the market the way we are. We were able to change it pretty quickly because we see, the houses that are been on the market for so long, we reduce the price and whatnot. So it's really about valuations on the local level, then that's something we can do to alleviate some of these taxes.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't want to belabor something, but on the taxes, I know our millage rate is a little bit higher than other cities across Texas. So obviously there's something at the state level, but I guess there's something at the city level that tax onto that, or how does that work? And how can I guess I'm assuming if they have to find the revenue, they got to find it from somewhere. Is that the mindset of the city government?
Right, and that's the thing, I think, when it comes to the budget, and I've said this in my forums, is the problem is in the budget, but the solution is also in the budget. I think as city council, we need to do a lot of auditing and, figuring out where we're spending our money and where is it going and what happens after the fact, because, we hire contractors, we get these bids for streets, and then we see them with a year later and construction is not done. What happened there? Where was the disconnect? Why are we not holding these people accountable for, their job? And I think that just kind of as city council, we're there, they get something done and they said, okay, that's good, but nothing really gets scrutinized or audited. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do within the budget we have a huge budget. So,
Yes.
there's a lot of money, there's a lot of line items that maybe can be deleted, can be adjusted, and we can figure out what we can do with what we have now instead of trying to add more to the budget.
Fascinating.
Is there any questions? I'd
Yeah,
love to hear.
I was getting ready to open it up.
Yeah.
Questions. She's like, I'm tired of Frank talking.
No, I love interacting. Like when I was doing forums, the ones that were interactive with the audience and they were asking questions, I think those were really effective because we get to hear what,
For sure.
what they're struggling with. So
For sure. Mundo, did we get the answer you were looking for? Or at least did she answer what you were asking? He's not here
he's
anymore.
like, I'm out.
He's still here or not. All right. Who else? Anyone else? Okay, he's not here. Who else has some questions? Comments?
I got a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning, Isabel. So, do you see any future like restrictions on Airbnbs in El Paso, specific areas, central historic areas?
So there's been a lot of, going back and forth when it comes to Airbnbs. I think there's an important thing to do, and that's not to remove any or affect any property rights as a homeowner. So we always have to keep that in mind, is that these are still homeowners. They still have property rights. We have ordinances in place already as a city that we can utilize. We have the noise ordinance, we have, weeds and whatnot, and nuisance and all that ordinance that we can already use instead of infringing in property rights. So I think for us, or for a homeowner, it's important to be able to have that right to do as they please with their homes. But just follow the guidelines, follow the ordinances that are in place. And if there is some kind of issues, we have that we can utilize. That we have code enforcement, we have the police officers, all that we can use if we do have an issue with an Airbnb, and just focus on the ordinance versus trying to do, infringe in property rights.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's something, that's something definitely that if in the future that I want to focus is keep the property rights, let them do what they need to do with their homes. But as long as they're following the ordinances.
Other questions? Comments? There are no dumb questions, folks.
Especially if you live in District 2 and Central, if you have any specific questions on that.
For sure.
I have comments. I just wanted to congratulate you,
Thank you, my love.
pretty girl, for your success and for running. I'm so proud of you and so proud of your story. I've known you for years, and it's good to know you like way back. And you're a remarkable young lady for sure.
Oh, thank you.
And one day I hope to be flipping houses soon. And definitely you have my vote on everything you do.
I appreciate it. And that's very important. And Heather and I have always been very open about communication. If you guys have any questions, there's a lot of investors that don't like to share their secrets. And me and Heather, we're always an open book. So any issues, any questions that you have, we're always available to share our experiences so that you don't go through the same things that we went through. And, you know, with that being said, I think it's really important for realtors to be involved in all aspects, you know, not only with our local board, but, you know, as city leaders, I think it's very important. So we have, as realtors, the perfect opportunity to be in city council because we know what it is, you know, to work with the public. We know what it is to work with homeowners. And the city council is pretty much in the same thing, you know, like we're dealing with constituents, we're dealing with people, and we're leaders in our community when it comes to realtors. So I think we should extend that and be involved in government as well, because it is something big. And I think, like you said, we've kind of been electing the same people over and over, and us realtors have firsthand experience, you know, with the city, and what better way to put that out there and just be a leader. So.
It's, you know, we have a lot of people here at Home Pros that are involved in different committees, whether it's industry, city, county, state, actually. And, you know, it really is so true. If you want to make a difference, number one, vote, but number two, get involved. And I commend you. I'm second what Mary Lou says. I mean, I commend you for one to try to make a difference. And, you know, I think it's anyone that gets into that role, I think it's bittersweet for them because they want to make a difference, and then in many cases they find that there's also the old kind of, this is kind of just the way it is, right? And so I don't know.
And I don't want realtors to get discouraged, you know, when it comes to that.
Yes.
It's like there can be change, and it, you know, there pivot that way to change. It takes us to step up and run, and so that way we can be that change. Because if we just kind of sit back and, you know, we hear our sellers and buyers complaining, we're complaining, what better way than just say, hey, I'm going to go up there and let's just be part of the solution. Because we, like, again, like, we know firsthand how it is, and we know firsthand what the struggles are with families. And I think it's very important that we just put that in government, and that we can use our experience to better the city.
Is there anything else on your platform you'd like to discuss, or anything maybe about your competitor that they do that you want to discuss?
No, I mean, it just really, early voting is done today, and you have election day. So I'm very excited for that, looking forward to that. But, you know, with me, it's just all about serving. We had a forum the other day, and somebody asked me, how are you going to transition from a realtor or from real estate to politics, or from a realtor to a politician? I said, I'm not a politician. You know, I was like, I never see myself as a politician. I don't ever want to see myself as a politician, because to me, I'm here because I want to serve. I'm here as a neighbor. I'm here as a business owner, as a realtor, as a mom, as a wife. And that for me is the reason I'm running, and not to be, you know, how those politicians, you think of a politician, you think negative. I don't want to be that. I want to be an actual change. I want to be something good for the community. And so with that being said, you know, it's just, if you guys are in the district, vote. And if you're outside the district, it's important to vote. We do have realtors that are running in different races right now. So you know, it's good for us to just be educated with your vote, and know your candidate, and know, you know, who you're voting for. And also, you can always skip. A lot of people don't know you can skip the vote. So if there's somebody that you don't know, or you don't feel comfortable with voting, you can just skip it and go on to the next one. You don't have to fill that whole ballot. You can just skip that particular ballot. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
So early voting is today.
today, hopefully, has everybody voted?
I have. I assume a lot have.
Realtors actually are notorious for not voting, so we need to change that. Because when I learned, you know, when I was doing my consulting, they're like, realtors don't vote, and I'm like, what do you mean realtors don't vote? Like, we're involved. And so I think we need to change that, because we're essential, and we're huge, and our voice does matter. So definitely vote in
Especially
your
when you think
district.
of our PACs and all the money that is raised and spent to lobby and whatnot, you would think they would be pushing out that vote.
Right.
Well, I find this fascinating. I think I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you, and no matter what term happens, I think this is a great experience, and I'm glad that you care, and we're honored
you.
that you're here with us and
appreciate it.
representing us as well, and so that helps a lot. So with that being said, if there are no other questions, then let's see. Is there another message down here?
Oh,
okay.
thank you,
Alberto
Alberto.
voted. I voted too. So
Everybody
you,
else.
you got 2 votes. And
Yeah.
so I mean, I don't know. And I live in your district, and I will probably say I did vote for you.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate
Hey,
it.
Isabel, this is Robert. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, of course.
Sorry, I'm running. Um, how, I guess, 2 questions. Is city council a full-time gig? And part 2 to that, how do you transition from council to real estate on I guess on a daily?
Yeah, so I mean, they meet twice a week. And so it's not really, it's really what you make it. It's kind of like real estate, it's how much you want to put into it. For me personally, I do plan on still keeping my license. I don't think I'm going to do so much traditional buyers and sellers, but I am still going to do my business aspect of it just because I can run that outside. But it is something for me that I'm going to devote full time to that. But I'm going to keep my license active and whatnot. But it's what you make it. It's like real estate. It's flexible. You don't have to be there all the time. But it is important for me anyway to give it, my full time to make sure that everything's getting done correctly and effectively. But yeah, it is a little bit like real estate. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we're prepared as realtors. We're prepared to do this because we're already doing it. And we know how to handle, budgets. We know how to handle angry constituents, homeowners,
I gotta say, when you said that, well, I'm not gonna be a politician, I mean, I kind of feel like in real estate, we do a lot of things that we have to do. We have to market ourselves. We have to,
Yeah.
we have to, I don't want to say mirror people as much. We want to be authentic and be ourselves. But to your point, I think, I think someone that's in real estate that does it well, will do it very well.
Yeah, exactly. We're realtor ready to be in city council. So I encourage everybody to put their name in the hat. And in the future, if anybody is, whether I'm elected or not, and if you guys want to do the same thing in your district or for mayor or for whatever other state level, I would be more than happy to share, what I've learned and what you need to do during the campaign, because the campaign was a lot. I mean, we were doing forums, we were doing questionnaires, we were doing media interviews.
Mail outs, I got mail from you.
Yeah, mail outs, social media. So it is a lot that you have to do in such a short period of time, and it is very stressful. So I would be more than happy to assist any way I can, especially, if you're a realtor. I would love for realtors to get involved.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm voting
Thank
this
you.
morning. Yay.
Awesome.
Oh,
Great.
yeah, I voted too.
Great question, Robert.
Oh, there you go. Everybody did vote. Look,
Yeah.
Elizabeth,
Yeah.
Adriana.
Yeah, we had some good votes. That's good. Any other final questions before we call it a day?
That was an hour already.
It was an hour. You did great. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you guys for
We wish you the
having me.
best of luck.
Yeah.
We're excited, and we will see you guys next week on Friday Fire. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you guys soon. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye, guys.